Why did they hang carpets on the walls in the USSR? First, let's answer the question of where the fashion for Soviet carpets came from. This is a very important point. The fashion for Soviet carpets had unique origins in the history of the USSR. During the period of the Soviet Union, carpet production was widely developed, and Soviet designers tried to create unique and modern models that reflected the ideology and aesthetic preferences of the time. Soviet carpets became not only a piece of furniture, but also a unique symbol of Soviet society. Their rich colors, corresponding to traditional Russian ornaments, reflected the spirit of the times. Carpets became a bright accent in the room and reflected the desire for comfort and beauty even in everyday life. They not only added comfort and beauty to the interiors, but also served an important function of insulating the home, especially in cold seasons. The thick and dense pile of Soviet carpets created an additional layer of insulation, preventing the penetration of cold air and retaining heat inside the room. But where exactly did the fashion for carpets come from, and why carpets and not something else? It is believed that Russians and Europeans brought the fashion of hanging carpets on walls from Turkey. Having spotted an idea in the East, they decided to improve their homes. Firstly, the patterned carpet looked very rich and emphasized the high status of the owner. And secondly, it insulated the home. The next important point that must be discussed. What do the mysterious patterns on Soviet carpets mean? Many people moved their fingers and looked for various pictures on the carpets before going to bed. Sometimes they even noticed various animals, birds, and aliens. You will be shocked, but some things did not seem to them at all. When it comes to carpets made in Armenia, it can be noted that the products of the brands Ijevin and Yerevan found their embodiment through a careful study of traditional Armenian miniatures. The main idea was the lotus flower, which inspired the stylization of the stems, buds, and even the image of animals on the petals of this plant. Turkmen products were unique creations, decorated with a variety of diamond patterns known as gel. We can conclude that all the images in them were of traditional origin and were not the creations of designers from the Soviet Union. Perhaps the only change was that the basic patterns and ornaments were slightly supplemented, processed, and subject to slight modifications. And that is not all. These products had lines that were endless and curled in different directions, without a clear beginning or end. This pattern is known as eslim and represents the heritage of Persian culture. Even strict geometry was enlivened by veiled images of living beings and plants. Therefore, when Soviet citizens, fixing their gaze on the product, suddenly looked at amazing animals, birds, and flowers, this was not a figment of their imagination. Most likely, these images really existed on the carpet. Now let's answer the main question. Why did they hang carpets on the walls in the USSR? Perhaps you saw such shots in USSR films and immediately felt this extraordinary comfort. However, why did people do this in the Soviet Union? In fact, everything is not so simple here, and you will really be shocked by the real reason for such design tricks. There is a widespread version on the internet that says that carpets were hung on the wall by people who wanted to demonstrate their good financial situation because carpets were not cheap back then. In fact, this is complete nonsense. Let's take a closer look. There are 4 main reasons for this decision. The first is that by stretching carpets over walls, families created natural sound insulation and kept their homes warm. The second reason: 40 years ago, wallpapering was not easy. Homemade glue and the fragility of the paper web created difficulties. Therefore, no one planned to change the wallpaper every few years. Carpet was used to protect walls from dirt and damage. It was often placed behind furniture to prevent dark marks on the wallpaper. But this is not the most surprising thing. The last 2 reasons will radically change your view of the Soviet tradition with carpets. You will be shocked. So, the third reason is decorativeness and national style. In the Soviet period, especially in the 1960s to 1970s, national motifs in interiors expressed the desire for a socialist lifestyle and emphasized national identity. Carpets, being a symbol of this era, have become an integral part of everyday life. And the fourth reason, the carpet next to the bed not only stylized the interior, but also created a cozy place to sleep, providing warmth and comfort. Its role was not limited to decoration. It also acted as an effective heat insulator. Subscribe to the channel if you want more videos about the USSR from Dr. Doom.